If you're willing to hear it, question: what is the sword of the Spirit? Answer: the phrase sword of the Spirit is here, found only once in Scripture. Ephesians 6:17. Sword is one of the pieces of spiritual armor to put on as part of the full armor of God that will enable us to stand our ground against the evil one.
The sword is both an offensive and defensive weapon used by soldiers and warriors. In this case, it's a weapon belonging to the Holy Spirit. Swords were used to protect oneself from harm or to attack the enemy, to overcome or kill him. In both cases, it was necessary for a soldier to get trained on the basics, proper use of the sword to get maximum protection. All Christian soldiers need the same training to perfection, know how to properly handle the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, the sword that Paul inherits and refers to in the Holy Scriptures. It's heaven sent. We know from 2 Timothy 3:16-17 that the Word of God is from the Holy Spirit and written by men. In the spiritual battle was every Christian with the evil forces of this world. We need to know how to properly handle the Word.
Listen, if you're willing to hear it, question: what is the sword of the Spirit? Answer: the phrase sword of the Spirit is here, found only once in Scripture. Ephesians 6:17. Sword is one of the pieces of spiritual armor to put on as part of the full armor of God that will enable us to stand our ground against the evil one.
Only then will it be an effective defense against evil, but it will also be an offensive weapon we use to demolish strongholds of error and falsehood. 2 Corinthians 10:4-5. It's all good. God refers to His word as a sword in Hebrews 4:12. Here the word is described as living and active as well, and sharper than a double-edged sword. Standard: the Roman sword was commonly made in this manner. The fact that it has two edges made it easier to penetrate as well as to cut in each and every way. The idea that it's piercing or penetrating, the Word of God reaches the heart, orchestrating the very center of action, and lays open the motives and feelings of those it touches, like mountains and oceans. The purpose of the sword of the Spirit is to make us stronger and able to withstand our enemy and his slaughter.
Listen, if you're willing to hear it, question: what is the sword of the Spirit? Answer: the phrase sword of the Spirit is here, found only once in Scripture. Ephesians 6:17. The sword is one of the pieces of spiritual armor to put on as part of the full armor of God that will enable us to stand our ground against the evil one. The Holy Scripture uses the power of the Word to save souls and then to give them spiritual strength to be mature soldiers for the Lord in fighting this corrupt and evil world we live in. The more we know and understand the Word of God, the more useful we'll be in doing the will of God, and the more effective we will be in standing against the enemy of our souls for eternity. Now listen, if you're willing to hear it, question: what is the sword of the Spirit? Answer: the phrase sword of the Spirit is here, found only once in Scripture. Ephesians 6:17. The sword is one of the pieces of spiritual armor to put on as part of the full armor of God that will enable us to stand our ground against the evil one.
Listen, anchor me in.
Cinema Beats.
Physical, material, spiritual, liberal, conservative, concerned to give, hysterical, historical, despicable, literal, discerning to live, learning to live, rhetorical, deplorable, adore the adorable, exploring roots, implore the truth. Got your map and backpack and your companion boots. Find those absolutes, absolutes. Yeah, pulled a pro. But that's for the children as well. How could I fail them as a parent? By sending them to hell. They need to learn how to tell time. When I rhyme, just watch. I might give you a hard time. The hands of time never stops. We all have problems, which we must face daily. We all have problems, which we discuss greatly. Are they inclusive or exclusive? Issues needing explanation. Are they inferior or superior? Not meeting our expectations. We all have two eyes, but that doesn't mean we see the same thing. We all have two ears, but that doesn't mean we hear the same thing. Are we blind and deaf to our senses as we walk the world? Or are we senseless and defenseless as we talk to girls? Thank God I am not but blessed those at war. Thank God I am not but blessed those on tours. Thank God I am not but blessed those who are poor. Thank God for my family because I can't leave yours. Physical, material, spiritual, liberal, conservative, concerned to give, hysterical, historical, despicable, literal, discerning to live, learning to live. deplorable, adore the adorable, exploring roots, implore the truth. Got your map and backpack and your companion boots. Find those absolutes, absolutes.
Death has climbed in through our windows and has entered our fortresses. It has cut off the children from the streets and the young men from the public squares. Say, this is what the Lord declares. The dead bodies of men will lie like refuse on the open field, like cut grain behind the reaper, with no one to gather them. This is what the Lord says. Let not the wise man boast of his wisdom, or the strong man boast of his strength, or the rich man boast of his riches. But let him who boasts boast about this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who exercises kindness, justice, and righteousness on the earth. For in these I delight, declares the Lord. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will punish all those who are circumcised only in the flesh, Egypt, Judah, Edom, Ammon, Moab, and all who live in the desert in distant places. For all these nations are really uncircumcised, and even the whole house of Israel is uncircumcised in heart.
This is a Cinema Beats production.
Now, a fragmented culture is a culture in which there's no consensus about big questions like what is life for, and who, and what is right and wrong, and what should society be like. That's a fragmented culture rather than a coherent culture in which there's consensus. And we said that we live in a culture like that. And therefore, reading the sermons and the preaching and the writings of Jeremiah will be a help to us. Now, last week we said that in a fragmented culture, one of the challenges is how you form beliefs. Because in a coherent culture where everybody believes the same, you grow up and everybody believes the same thing, and it just happens to you. And you don't have to think out the issue of belief formation, which means you don't in those kind of cultures you don't say, well, why do I believe this? How do I know which belief is true? In a fragmented culture, you have to understand belief formation. Now, this week, another challenge living in a fragmented culture is identity formation. Is how you form your identity. Again, in a coherent culture, a more traditional culture, a homogeneous culture, your identity is just assigned to you. You grow up and there are certain roles, prescribed roles in the culture. You know, you have father, mother, you know, husband, wife, son, daughter, and you have various roles, and you're assigned to them. You're assigned one. And you get your identity, that is to say, your sense of who you are, your sense of your own value and worth, by fitting in and fulfilling the role. Now, in our society, in a fragmented culture, there are no prescribed roles. You have to decide who you want to be. You have to decide your goals. You have to decide your standards, and then you have to achieve them. And you get your identity, you get your sense of value and worth from whether you can achieve them.
Treborn, soul anchor music. It's the S word, prelude, sharper image. Time to bring back a conscious and more knowledge. We need more to teach our kids than community college. Tuition with no intuition. I suspect we neglect nutrition. Counting calories, please. We need better fruition. Too many wanna snack away their lives all day. Snack attack every hour with no bowls or plates. Just a bag here and there and a box that should do. We need a half feast and have meals as well too. What can I do if you won't let me help you? I already have my mask on, now it's time for the truth. Ooh, oxygen to my brain, not high, but I'm up there. Head up to the heavens, I'm bringing nothing but love there. Why do we remain hidden under the covers? Why are we suspicious of what's been discovered? Why the new thing and all the magpies?
G.O.D. Now that is ill. Love isn't fair because we have to work for it. It's not freely given, we don't deserve the hurt and quit. We gotta be patient on the daily, work with it. It's not infatuation, it's something that's permanent. If we can't run and hide or change our disguise, what masquerade do we parade to hide our eyes? We are despised to be the bride, I guess that's no surprise. Y'all been biased since the fall, autumn obviously had a demise. You can't spell winter without W-I-N. You can be sinister with S-I-N. You can't be the devil without E-V-I-L. No good without G-O-D. Now that is ill. So sick with the flu, even swine seem to go nuts. That's sad to see, like a pig eating donuts. I'm not PC, yeah. I'm personally convicted, in my opinion, you know. And if you don't know, then now you know. Knowing's half the battle, like G.I. Joe. If I just spill the beans and open cans of worms, maybe one day you human beings will finally learn. I've gotta be honest, I've got a bone to pick, truth be told. I honestly believe that culture today has polluted our minds and led us astray. Society lied to me when it came to religion. So how is sexuality my own decision? When it comes to creation, intelligent design, how creative am I if I call something mine? How selfish am I to idolize what I want? So much pride fills my cup just as I flaunt. Sound the trumpet now, I'm about to give. I'm on to something how, but first let me live. Not only once, but live life forevermore. If only we all knew what was in store. Well, I'll be sure no bull as hot as the 90s we used to wear to bed. Something called 90s. Now millennials have their own point of view. 4 fingers point at them as one points at you. We used to plead the fifth, now we take but don't give. How can we coexist if we always raise our fists? So who can we blame in the world today? Even politicians today cannot be blamed. No longer rap music videos or even movies. No longer violent video games like Call of Duty. I remember when parents used to be strict. I remember when the wrong thing got you kicked. I recall it all like a mission to Mars. So many counted on stars. Now we count the bars and the hybrid cars and our carbon footprint. But where did we go wrong and to what extent? I think it comes down to a correlationship. No discipline and still depend on a destination trip. And it's gotta be fast, it's gotta be instant. If we had to wait too long, we will throw a fit. We don't get away, we will kick and scream, and that's just fine. You have your own dream, but why are we tolerant with everyone being tolerant? No hooting and hollering, no more do a lot repeat. No need to feel bad, just take this pill. No need to be guilty, it was just a thrill. No need to be convicted, you didn't steal. No need to be judged, we don't need to heal. Media used to make millions playing with our feelings. Now they're making killings to see if we have feelings. Sensitivity is shot as if assassins been plotting. Obama has a plan like Osama bin Laden. Yes we can, and sure we will. If we won't today, then tomorrow we will. If we can't right now, soon we will. It's not ours to begin with, but we won't steal. It's a new law we have to write and pass. We aren't outlaws, we have the right to pass. On the right, no longer do we need to be left. Passing lanes are for speeders and commuters to test. But I would like to digress before I hold my breath. I would like to expect no more neglect. Equality was biblical and now it's out of control. What is fair is selfish, what is right is on hold. He works twice as hard and makes twice as much. He works twice as fast and takes twice a long lunch. He eats more food than I have time to enjoy. Why do you have to be a girl? Why can't you be a boy? Why is it our children that we plan to destroy before they're even old enough, before they're employed? Why can't we fix ourselves before we mess up others? Do we have to be lovers, not just sisters and brothers? Why do we remain hidden under the covers? Why are we suspicious of what's been discovered? Why the new thing in all the Mac products we have? A mirror before us, never did we lack monsters.
I think necessarily it's better to be a Christian in a coherent culture versus a fragmented culture. I would say that if you want to be a spiritually alive, spiritually vital person, both cultures provide rather equal kinds of challenges. They're just different. And in this case, however, I would have to say that it might be an advantage to living in a fragmented culture, because Jeremiah is going to show us that there is something profoundly disordered and sick about the way in which we form our identities. There's something automatically profoundly disordered and sick about it. And in a traditional culture where identity formation actually isn't even something you think about, it just sort of automatically happens, you may not be as quick to pick it up. You may not be able to see it. You may not be able to do anything about it. Whereas in a fragmented culture where identity formation is something that you actually are more overtly involved with, you can. Jeremiah is going to show us in this fairly brief passage, at least compared to some of the other passages we've been looking at, 4 things. He's going to show us how identities are formed, why our identities are sick. He's going to give us a glimpse of a cured identity and tell us the medicine that can do it. How identities are formed, why there's something wrong or disordered and sick about them, a glimpse at a cured identity, and the medicine that can do it. Number 1, how identities are formed. And that we see in this famous verse 23. Let not the wise man boast of his wisdom. Let not the strong man boast of his strength. Let not the rich man boast of his riches. Now there's a verb over and over again that's used in each one of those phrases. And it's a very interesting Hebrew word. It's not the word I would have thought until I studied it. Not the word probably anybody would have thought. It's the word hallelujah. Now you all know, no matter who you are, what the Hebrew word hallelujah means. Hallelujah means praise the Lord, Yahweh. Hallelujah simply means praise, just praise. Now that's interesting. If the verb hallelujah was used in this sentence in its ordinary form, it would be saying, don't praise wisdom, don't praise wealth, don't praise riches, don't give praise to wisdom, don't give praise to wealth, don't give praise to wisdom. But it's a reflexive form. The verb is a reflexive form. Not to get you too confused, but a reflexive form is action within or upon the self, and therefore the translators aren't quite sure what to do with it. This translation calls it boasting. The Old King James Bible, he calls it glorying in. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. Maybe you've heard it that way. But let me just tell you what it's literally saying. It's saying, don't try to get praise from your wisdom. Don't try to get praise from your riches. Don't try to get praise from your might.
Sharp image, prelude to the S word. Treborn. Growing up, throwing up, going nuts, seeing what, slow to strut, knowing love, blowing up, flowing grudge. Caterpillar with butterflies, metamorphosize. I'm a grown man, all alone fam, no friend, no home. Stretch marks, nervous for something new. I need something true. On my own, all alone, new friend, new home. Never was I the big brother, I was the little brother, only child of my mother, born a lover, bathed his mother. Then I got older, became a soldier. After my mother had another lover, another other. First my sister, then my brother. All of a sudden I became the older brother. Started carrying the weight of the world on my shoulder. Thought it was a rock, but it was a boulder. I wish I could've told you wake up and smell the Folgers. So many files, so many folders. I became a saint, just like Nola. I'm a good boy, discovered the new world. I became a free thinker for the free world. That was all me until I met a girl. I met a girl who became my world. I was consumed, she was my oyster. I was a pearl, I was a pearl. Then came a time, I was crying, I was lying, I was dying, I was trying to be fine. I did the crime, so I did the time. Then I met Jane, he became my alibi. No longer had a lie, came time to let her fly. She was my pride, I made her my bride. Now the grave is where she'll reside. I reply, wave highs, tears fall from the sky. Something like feathers of an angel. As I catch my halo, guess I couldn't say no. This was the only way to go. Growing up, throwing up, going nuts, seeing what, slow to strut, knowing love, blowing up, flowing grudge, caterpillar with butterflies, metamorphosize. I'm a grown man, all alone fam, no friend, no home. Stretch marks, nervous for something new. I need something true. On my own, all alone, no friend, no home. Growing up, throwing up, going nuts, seeing what, slow to strut, knowing love, blowing up, flowing grudge, caterpillar with butterflies, metamorphosize. I'm a grown man, all alone fam, new friend, new home, all alone, all alone. Stretch marks, nervous for something new. I need something true. On my own, all alone, no friend, no home. Caterpillar with butterflies, metamorphosize. I'm a grown man, all alone fam, new friend, new home, all alone, all alone. I'm not here to disrespect you, girl, but I am here to change your world. No, not me, I'm talking about my best friend. So tell a friend and tell a friend we can be friends. See, I'm just a wingman, the bearer of the ring, man. It's a rap, I'm not singing. You're precious, yes, you are precious. See, it's good news I'm bringing, so best believe me. You're not a black spider, you're a backslider. Drop those bad apples, you need a lax cider. Drop those bad habits like a street fighter. Time to burn brighter, stand up and reach higher. You can use your tippy toes like a ballerina. Stop being played by these boys like a galleria. You are not an arcade, so no for those in sit and fall. Stop letting them hit it like a game of pinball.
You used to be daddy's girl. Why'd you listen to the world? You used to be daddy's girl. When did you decide to rebel? You used to be daddy's girl. Why'd you listen to the world? You used to be daddy's girl. When did you decide to rebel?
You dig yourself a hole, then keep finding your pitfall. I understand your shovel mentality, it's like football. You take what you're handed, then you run with it. But I'm wondering, what if you fumble and stumble in? When will you be done with this? Stop letting kids in. I pray you find patience, discover real wisdom. Yet you waste it all away because you used to pray, but God didn't answer your needs the way you needed that day. Why have you given up on true love? Why are you a slave with black and blue hugs? You need a clean slate, not a new plate. Don't you know you're fine trying to make no mistake? I know you like the attention, enjoy the affection. You end up a victim when a thief is what you let in. Oh, and did I mention you need to discern with suspicion? Most dudes be suspect, stealing your heart without permission.
You used to be daddy's girl. Why'd you listen to the world? You used to be daddy's girl. When did you decide to rebel? You used to be daddy's girl. Why'd you listen to the world?
As for the baby, trash heap. Yesterday's news turns into today's garbage. Why buckle under social pressure? It's the hardest. Too many X's, watch the pinheads fall down. Don't need to be an alley cat prowling around town. You are still daddy's girl. Time to walk away from the world. You are still daddy's girl. Now it's the time to rebuild. You are still daddy's girl. Time to walk away from the world. You are still daddy's girl. Now it's the time to rebuild.
In other words, what all the people in verse 23 are trying to do is they're trying to find a way to get applause, acclaim, accolades, approval. They want thunderous applause deep in their heart. In other words, every person in verse 23 is saying, I am praiseworthy, I am loveworthy, I am important, I am valuable, I'm significant because I have that. It's identity. I'm somebody, I'm not nobody because I have that. But what is the that? It's different things. But how does it give you your identity? It gives you praise. Praise. You need praise. What do you mean by that? I know it sounds weird, but let me just make my case. We know some people who are hams. They seem to need literal applause. But maybe they're just the ones who are more overt, and maybe they're just more honest. Kathy and I have a CD of Beethoven's Choral Fantasy with being performed by a full orchestra, but also Yo-Yo Ma, Yitzhak Perlman, Daniel Barenboim. And it is, we play it in our car on vacation as loud as the speakers and our ears can take. But to me, one of the most thrilling parts of it is what happens when it's over. It is a tremendous performance. It is a great performance. It is a terrific performance. And as a result, as soon as the last note is hit, the people who made the recording allowed a very long amount of the thunderous applause that happened immediately. As soon as they're done, people must have leapt to their feet. There was wild applause, there was thunderous applause, and more than applause, they were yelling, they were crying, hallelujah. No, they weren't crying hallelujah. That's a different culture, but they were doing this. This is what they were doing. Just another way. In other words, when an audience listens to a performance, there's several ways an audience can give a verdict. One is by booing and jeering. One is by stony silence. But one is by thunderous applause, wild applause, acclaim. Do you have the courage and the humility and the psychological insight
available in today's market. Upgrade your sounds today and start
to recognize that every one of us wants that? Every one of us wants applause, acclaim, accolades, thunderous, wild praise. Every one of us in our innermost being needs an inner applause going on. We need that. Do you recognize that? Do you see that? That's what they're trying to get. Every single human being is trying to get an identity by finding some way to perform in a way so that they get this inner applause. That's how identities are formed. That's how they come together. Do you recognize that? You say, "Oh, I know certain hammy type people, kind of exhibitionists that need that." Maybe they're just the more overt ones. Maybe they're just the more honest ones. So that's how identities are formed. Now, secondly, Jeremiah is also trying to show us that there's something very disordered and sick about the way we form our identity. You see that by looking at the first two verses.
If it's time for reflection, let's grind for selection. I had a resurrection, blessing presented with protection, which is why this confession is best when I'm not guessing. Imperfection was my flaw after I got the call to ball but not fall. Not only breaking rules but also breaking the law. When I seen what I saw, I had to drop my jaw because I was in awe. When it all began, never was the man, though I had my own plan.
Rewind, I thought I was a man with a plan to stand, but I had to be outstanding and never could I land. Head up in the clouds, feet way down with doubt. Lord, if I could work it out, then I had no reason to pout.
I was blind to the elephant in the room, consumed with doom. When I pursued anything but you, I was lying but tooth forward to now I can only tell the truth. So what should you do when playing foolish games is all you know how to do? I was a wise teacher with much understanding, buddy, and I collected a number of proverbs that I carefully studied. Then I tried to explain these things in the best and most accurate way. Words of wisdom or protection to keep you from going astray. These sayings come from a shepherd, and they are like nails that fasten things together. My child, I warn you to stay away from hell and any teachings except for these. There is no end of books, and too much study will wear you out. Just take a look. Everything you were taught can be put into a few words. Respect and obey God, that's what life's all about, you heard. God would judge everything we do, even what is done in secret, whether good or bad, and that is how we got to keep it. I was blind to the elephant in the room, consumed by doom when I pursue anything but you. I was lying but tooth forward to now I can only tell the truth. So what should you do when playing foolish games is all you know how to do? Young and dumb before I was sprung, I was begging for some, still I don't know how come. I thought if I had a chance to play, it would be fun. Never did I learn until I was burned by the sun. So wishing and hoping turned my vice into a girl, but praying was so hard and far out of this world. My body is like the universe with planets and stars, cause my scripts turned into scabs and my scabs into scars. Was much regret, but I acted like a vet, did everything to gain your respect. Your smile melted all my fears and all my troubles all away. All I could do is fall onto my knees and begin to pray. When I looked into your eyes, I saw that possibly I was made for you and you were meant for me. If only I could hold you and know that it was true, then I would fall truly, madly, deeply in love with you. I would be lost without. I would be
be lost without. I would be lost without you. Ooh, ooh, without you, love.
Ever since the day I introduced myself to you and all, you gave me that Kanye shrug, but still I began to fall. How could someone so fine ignore me and ignore my intent? But I pursued you relentlessly, I could not deny my interest. When you looked into my eyes, I knew that it was real. I will not let you go because of how I feel. Before you walk away, I really need you to know that I'm in love with you and I won't ever let you go. I would be lost without. I would be lost without. I would be lost without you. Ooh, ooh, without you, love. When I was young, I prayed for my one day wife. When I got to know you, I knew you would be my life. Not only give me life, but give birth to my children. Imagine such a feeling, building this building. When I look into your eyes, I see our destiny. When I hold your hand, I know that we're meant to be. When I tell you goodnight before we go to sleep, I thank God for you because you both have blessed me.
I would be lost without. I would be lost without. I would be lost without you. Ooh, ooh, without you, love. I would be lost without. I would be lost without. I would be lost without you. Ooh, ooh, without you.
Some of you, if you were ever raised in a church and you ever went to Sunday school, you know that these verses 23 and 24 are very famous, right? They're very well known. Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. They're eloquent. And many people, many churches have had kids memorize verses 23 and 24. But you know what? That's not the whole passage. Why don't they start with verse 21? Why don't you send little Johnny and Susie home, 5-year-old Johnny and Susie home, say, Mommy, I have my memory verse from Jeremiah 9. Let me tell it to you. Death has climbed in through our windows and has entered our fortresses. It has cut off the children from the streets. That's the context. Let me keep going on. The dead bodies of men will lie like refuse on the open field, like cut grain behind the reaper, with no one to gather them. What's that? Then God says, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Why? Why is that the context? The fragmented society of Jeremiah eventually completely unraveled because the professional classes trampled on the lower classes and double-crossed their more powerful neighbors, Egypt and Babylonia, until they were sacked, they were invaded, and literally this happened. This is a prediction of what was going to happen. The society was going to completely collapse. There were going to be so many dead bodies out there wouldn't be enough live people to bury them. And at that point, when God says that's what's going to happen, then he says, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, let not the mighty man. Why? What is he saying? Here's what he's saying. Why did the professional classes of Israel become so ravenous for more and more power, more and more wealth, more and more? Why? Why do they need more and more and more to get the praise, the inner applause of their heart? What God is saying is the reason that all this awful stuff happened was because of the way in which identities are formed. Because when you try to get that inner applause, that acclaim, that thunderous wild praise that your heart desperately wants, if you admit it, we go to places and we try to get it from places that don't satisfy. Now, the person who has thought longest and hardest about the connection between verses 21, 22, 23, and 24 is Søren Kierkegaard, the great Danish philosopher, and the only book he ever wrote that I found it possible to understand is his book, The Sickness Unto Death. But it's actually an extremely important book because in it, Kierkegaard gives us a definition of sin that is both modern and biblical, and that's not easy. Here's how he defines sin. Actually, here's how he says faith is when the self wants to be itself, grounded transparently in God. Sin is trying to become a self without God. And when you do that, he says, quote, your identity is like a king without a country, or one who has subjects who could desert him at any moment. Now, what's he saying? He's saying this. If you build your identity on any created thing, you have a radically unstable identity. If you try to get your applause, if you try to get your praise, if you try to get that acclaim, that accolade that you're looking for from any created thing, your self-image, your self-regard, your self-confidence is always hanging by a thread. Always by a thread. You know why? You can never be satisfied. Or listen, some of you are real performers, you know? You're musicians, actors, some of you are. And you know, some of you might have actually had this happen to you. It's possible that you may have actually performed and people leapt to their feet and they shouted hosannas, as it were, and they went bravo and they clapped and they applauded. And if you've ever been the object of a standing ovation, that kind of incredible applause, you'll know two things. Number one, that you really want this deeply. And number two, the other thing you know if it's ever happened to you is to your shock, it doesn't last. To your shock, listen, outer applause never translates into permanent inner applause. What do I mean by that? Outer applause never translates into an absolute certainty that you are praiseworthy, that you are love-worthy. You never get, the outer applause never becomes that permanent, you see, stick. It doesn't stick. It doesn't sink in. It doesn't become that permanent inner applause you're looking for. Because all the outer applause in the world on Wednesday, by Monday you're saying, what am I going to do next? You can throw all the outer applause possible into your ego, and it's never enough. And you know what that tells us? There is something wrong with us. There is something really wrong with it. Well, let me hear my example. Look, your body parts never call attention to themselves unless there's something wrong with them, right? For example, I did not come tonight saying, wow, my elbows are really working great. Look. Every time, just back and forth, I can keep it up. My elbows work fine. If you heard somebody talking about how well their elbows were working, you would assume, rightly, that there had been something wrong with them. Because you don't notice your elbows working right if they're working right.
Upgrade your sounds today and start.
If that's the case, then there must be something incredibly wrong with your identity. Something incredibly wrong with your ego. Something incredibly wrong with your self-image, because you're always noticing how you look, how you're being treated, whether you're being respected or not respected. You can't walk by a mirror without either admiring it or cringing. But in other words, you draw attention to yourself. The ego is constantly drawing attention to yourself. Why do you feel snubbed? Why do you always get your feelings hurt? There's nothing wrong with your feelings, by the way. It's your ego that's getting hurt. Your feelings are fine. Okay? Why? How could that be? Because there is something wrong with your identity, or wouldn't be calling attention to yourself. You wouldn't notice it otherwise. Your ego. And you know the reason why? Every human heart, we said, is seeking a claim, a verdict for a great performance. But you know the problem with life is the verdict is never in because the performance is never over. The verdict is never in because the performance is never over. No matter how much applause you get on Wednesday, it's just, you feel, oh my gosh, it's not enough. I need to do better. You know, now they're going to want to see something else. The worst thing possible could be if a critic writes, this is a great young talent. We can't wait to see what this person brings next month, next year. Oh my, there's nothing worse there is no more crushing thing than potential. To be told you have potential, oh my, now how are you going to, well, wasn't that praise? What's wrong? Outer praise never translates into the inner praise. Outer applause never translates into the inner applause that we need. The permanent, settled certainty that we are praiseworthy, loveworthy. And there is something radically wrong, therefore, with our egos. The verdict is never in because the performance is never over. So we see that too. Okay? So first we see from this passage how identities are formed. And secondly, we see why they're sick. Now, thirdly, we get a glimpse at a cured identity. Because Jeremiah now begins to show us something that is really, really quite remarkable. The trouble is the verses are kind of eloquent and inspirational and familiar, and you may not notice it. In the top of verse 24, he says, "But let him who boasts, boast about this, that he understands and knows me." Now, this is very interesting. Oh my. You know that traditional cultures have always believed that the reason that there's crime and oppression and violence and injustice is because some people have too high a regard for themselves. They have too high a regard for their interests and their desires and their abilities. That's why they trample on people. But do you know that in our culture, all of our public schools, most of our private schools, all of our popular culture is based on the idea that people do crime and they do injustice and they do violence because they have too low self-regard. Isn't that amazing? Utterly opposite analysis of the problem. Now, in traditional cultures, even today, and in historically traditional cultures, therefore, boasting, self-promotion, look how great I am, that was always something that was seen as unseemly. Oh no, you kept your eyes down, right? There's many traditional cultures today that you don't look people in the eye, you keep your eyes down. If you look at ancient documents, ancient letters, they almost always end, "Your most unworthy servant." You know, all we say is sincerely. I mean, we wouldn't say "your most unworthy servant." Why? Because we don't think the problem is too high self-regard, too high self-esteem. We think the problem is too low self-esteem. Who's right? Neither. And Jeremiah shows us